Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, September 4th. This is Gina Palma. Over the next couple of days, we will continue to have increases to showers and thunderstorms across the Great Basin. Today, thunderstorms will spread a little bit further north than what we saw yesterday, and will be a mix of wet and dry over parts of central and eastern Nevada. As we move into Wednesday, thunderstorms push north nearly to the Idaho border, and these thunderstorms in yellow, especially over northeast Nevada and northwest Utah, will be on the drier side and will produce gusty outflow winds. It's this area that will be most concerning on Wednesday, as fuels are very critical and very dry. Further south, thunderstorms will be more numerous, however will be on the wetter side. On Thursday, thunderstorms will expand north and make it up into eastern Idaho and into Wyoming. However, these may be a mix of wet and dry initially across Idaho, and we will continue to monitor this, but should be wetter further south into Utah. Over the last 24 hours, we saw numerous thunderstorms over the southern areas of the Great Basin. These areas generally saw light amounts of precipitation, with the exception of parts of far southern Nevada into the Arizona Strip and southwest Utah. And these areas, some of these storms, saw over a third or over a half inch of total precipitation. Yesterday, light initial attack occurred across the Great Basin. Looking at the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen precipitation generally in the far north over the last week, and then over parts of Utah. Again, this does not include what we just saw yesterday over parts of southern Nevada into the Arizona Strip and southwest Utah. Over the last 2 weeks, thunderstorms and showers have been confined to the eastern half of the Great Basin, with still very dry conditions across much of Nevada and into southwest Idaho over the last couple of weeks. How this has affected fuel conditions: ERCs have again risen to above the 80th to 90th percentile, and some areas over northern Nevada and northern Utah have reached the 97th percentile or higher. Still, ERCs are quite low over the southern areas of the Great Basin and will likely remain this way over the coming week. If we look at some of our fuels charts, you'll notice that the ERCs that have risen again over the northern half of the Great Basin, many of these areas, especially over southern Idaho and northern Nevada and northern Utah, are showing ERCs near or above records for the time of year. The satellite loop from this morning shows a general trough across the west, with moisture trapped underneath this area of low pressure over the southern half of the Great Basin, which is again where we'll continue to see those showers and thunderstorms today. Otherwise, clear skies and warmer conditions will continue, along with drier conditions further north in the Great Basin today. Looking at the smoke dispersion forecast for the next couple of days, you can see smoke generally across parts of Nevada and Utah, and not as much across Idaho today. However, as we go into Wednesday and Thursday and the flow turns more to the southwest, this will push any smoke from fires ongoing back up into Idaho and really across the northern half of the Great Basin the next couple of days. If we look at the weather pattern for later today, you can see how that moisture moves north, a little bit further north than what we saw yesterday across Utah and Nevada with those showers and thunderstorms. We have no high risk issued for today, as these thunderstorms moving north will likely be producing at least some precipitation and higher humidity, especially across Utah. As you get into Nevada, these thunderstorms may be more of a mix of wet and dry today. So there is still some potential for ignitions and spread over parts of northern Ely District into parts of Battle Mountain. Looking at the weather for today, again, you can see where those showers and thunderstorms will be located, mainly on the wetter side. Only the very narrow band along the northern fringe would be a mix of wet and dry today. Winds will be generally light across the Great Basin, with only gusty outflow winds over the southern areas where the thunderstorms will be located. On Wednesday, the moisture pushes further north to near the Idaho border, and we do have high risk as these thunderstorms move back into northeast Nevada and northwest Utah, where fuels have been most critical and ERCs are near record highs. Looking at the overall picture for Wednesday, the weather on the left, you can see where these thunderstorms will be located. They will be fairly isolated over parts of northeast Nevada and far northwest Utah, but again should be high enough that the threat is there for the high risk for the lightning. Further south, we'll continue with showers and thunderstorms, but again being on the wetter side over the southern half of Utah. Winds will still generally be light on Wednesday, but we will see those gusty outflow winds near thunderstorms. On Thursday, the moisture pushes all the way north up into parts of eastern and central Idaho and Wyoming. We have no high risk issued for Thursday. However, we will continue to watch parts of eastern Idaho, as fuels are still quite critical in those areas as well. But right now we're just unsure as far as amount of lightning and the amount of moisture that pushes north up into Idaho on Thursday. Further south, thunderstorms will continue across Utah and eastern Nevada, and again will be on the wetter side. Looking at the pattern for Thursday, you can see where most of these thunderstorms will be located, especially across Utah, but again, a fairly good amount of lightning over eastern Idaho and Wyoming and into far eastern Nevada. As we move into Thursday, we may see some breezy winds over parts of far western Nevada, right along the Sierra front, but otherwise generally light to moderate winds with only gusty outflow winds near thunderstorms. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation, again generally light with the exception of especially the higher terrain of Utah down into the Arizona Strip and the Central Sierra, which will see higher amounts of precipitation likelihood with these thunderstorms. As we move into Friday, we will see drier air move across the Great Basin. Winds will still remain on the light to moderate side. We do have a trough of low pressure that is approaching the west coast, but this will likely impact the Great Basin with gustier winds, especially on Saturday. So on Friday, generally light to moderate winds with no high risk. On Saturday, again, as that trough moves eastward, winds will increase over the northern half of the Great Basin. So we do have high risk to account for that windy and dry conditions that are expected, especially with some areas that in the wind over northeast Nevada and southern Idaho, seeing lightning here in the coming days prior to the wind and the dry conditions. As we move into Sunday, generally westerly flow across the northern half of the Great Basin, still probably breezy, but maybe not quite as windy as on Saturday, however dry conditions region-wide. On Monday, that similar pattern continues with dry and warm conditions and moderate winds in the north. Precipitation total has not changed in the 7-day, considering most of that precipitation will be occurring here in the next 3 days with thunderstorms. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us into the third week of September, shows warm conditions for the southern half of the basin, with possibly some cooling over central Idaho and the northwest part of the U.S., and then generally drier conditions than normal expected in most areas. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.